There was that one festival in Atlanta where a band, it sounded like Where Is My Mind? It was like, fuck, we should open up for that as soon as they're done.
Hi, you're watching Enemy, and we're here with Pixies.
Hello.
How are we doing today, guys?
The Pixies or Pixies?
I've always felt the need to say Pixies.
That was really like spot on. You just kind of went for those slightly more awkward, more arty Pixies.
We're here
you know
with
what I mean?
two Pixies.
Yeah.
Some Pixies.
So we've been talking about that a lot this week, along with the Erie pronunciation and the pronunciation of Tom Dalgetty's name, the producer.
Yeah.
So,
We have a bit of a linguistic session now. So, seventh album, Beneath. You prefer Eyrie, Beneath the Eyrie.
mm-hmm. That's what we think it is, but I think it's one of those optional words because of its lack of usage. I think it's transforming again.
So you said the record. Well, the press release reads, "Where tales of witches, Daniel Boone, misfits, and other characters fit utterly into the band's inherent weirdness." Discuss.
It says discuss?
No, I just added that bit at the end.
Oh, discuss. What would you like to discuss?
So, I mean, is it fair to say that this is kind of going back into Pixies' kind of fascination with mythology?
We love the generalizations, I know. I generalize too.
Yeah.
We all like to generalize things. But the format is the popular song, 3 minutes long. And at the end of the day, that's what some guy in a car is listening to when he's driving down the street. So as soon as you start to make these kind of, is it fair to say, this time around,
Here we go. Pigeonhole.
you guys are kind of doing this kind of thing. You know what I mean? It starts to get like, I don't know, when really it's just all about like the song, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and what is that song about, you know what I mean? And even if it's a real rock opera, you know what I mean? It's like, still you're driving down the street listening to Baba O'Reilly, and it's all about that song, right? It's not really about a rock opera.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to ascend to that status, I don't think, in the rock music world, where an opera really becomes, you know, like when people, I don't know, I've never been to the opera, but you know how if you go to the opera, you know, and you know the opera, I mean, you know the story. It doesn't matter if you don't speak Italian, you know the whole story.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, do you really think that like there's any, I can't think of a single rock album where everyone goes like, you know the part, you know the part where he slays his lover
Yeah.
on the castle lawn? I love that part.
Maybe some dark prog album somewhere.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to? I mean, is it fair to say? I don't know. I don't know, man. Just
As a fairy tale, is it kind of, can you relate it to modern life, or is it pure escapism?
Well, I mean, you can relate any word, right? Any pairing of words, any couplet. You know what I mean? You can relate to something, right? I mean, it's like, I heard some like slick R&B pop song on German radio yesterday. The main refrain was, "Rome wasn't built in a day." You know what I mean? So I don't know what they were trying to relate it to, but it was something modern in the character's life, right? A relationship, I suppose, a romantic relationship. So they were relating that old phrase, "Rome wasn't built in a day." You know what I mean? So I mean, isn't that how it works, right?
Yeah.
You hear music and you go, I relate to this because, you know what I mean? You make it personal or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And you enjoy the freedom of that. Do you ever get frustrated when people try to assume that songs mean certain things?
No, I don't mind when they assume songs mean certain things. I don't mind that. It bothers me when they assume 12 songs in your album means a certain thing. That's where I start to like freak out. There's a presumption, you know what I mean, in like, like whatever you want to call it, rock writing or whatever, maybe this happens in other forms of cultural criticism or whatever. There's this presumption, you know what I mean, that there's like there's this overlying concept or theme or whatever. And I'm not saying there isn't, but, you know, there's this presumption. And so let's get to the theme concept part.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, well, wait a minute. Whoa. You know what I mean? Because like, you know how sometimes people might kind of nab us for like being a bit sort of, I don't know, some of the lyrics are a bit abstract, I guess, right? Or a little poetry-esque, right? A little surreal, maybe, right? You know, I mean, this is pretty standard in popular music. They call me mellow yellow. That's right, slick. You know what I mean? It's like, it's well established. You know what I mean? This kind of like, 'twas Brilligan's slithy tove, right? I mean, it's pretty well established. But, you know, like, as like, if you're gonna like, you know, it's like surrealism, you know, Dadaism and surrealism from 100 years ago has had this like massive effect, you know, on all of culture, all of like the arts, you know, all across the board. You know what I mean? And so I guess my point is, it's like if you're really going to try to be that or at least be influenced by that, then you have to go with the surrealist premise, which is like, I'm going to like either relate for example, you could relate your dreams to your art presentation, or you could just be psychologically, like what you would at the therapist's office, you would be psychologically open, right? And so while there may be themes there, it's not decided beforehand what the theme is. You might be able to like, so this record hasn't been out yet, so I'm still kind of like figuring out what the theme, I didn't write down what the theme was gonna be. Well, I lost my tooth and I put it in a guitar. And it's very dramatic looking. It's kind of gross looking, actually, to other people. I thought it looked pretty cool. Black guitar. You've seen the guitar, right?
I've seen it.
Lost the tooth. I had him stick it. Told the producer, Tom, maybe we're going to do a little bit of a kind of a goth thing with this. And I was thinking, it was being kind of silly, maybe thinking more like, you know, goth music as opposed to gothic, as opposed to Edgar Allan Poe. I was thinking more Sisters of Mercy. But anyway, goth turned into gothic. At some point in the discussion, maybe the record's going to be kind of gothic, right? But that's as far as we discussed it, you know what I mean? So when we made the record, anytime anything gothic showed up, we just let it be there because this original suggestion was there. It's like, oh, gothic, oh yeah, that's kind of gothic, right? So you just kind of leave it alone. So so I'm going to give it a theme. We did. You're right. We set out intentionally to make a gothic record. But that's it.
Yeah.
What is the concept of gothic? It is gothic. That's it.
So Indie was your first record in 13 years, and this is now the third record in the new kind of incarnation of Pixies. What's changed in the chemistry and the spirit of the band when it comes to making music, and what would you say is kind of remains quintessentially Pixies?
The three of us would make it continuous. Having Paz would be the new one. It's as simple as that.
What kind of energy does she bring that's kind of altered the Pixies kind of mood?
Lightness,
Good sense of humor.
good sense of humor.
Similar sense, either a similar sense of humor or she is manipulating us and she's figured out what our sense of humor is and she totally just like does it, right? She totally fits in.
Yeah, I think she's naturally silly. You know, you can't really fake silliness.
I don't mean that she was bad.
No, I know.
I'm not being serious. I'm sorry. I'm just saying because she's so smart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like she's always right. She's a longtime fan of the band.
Yeah.
So she kind of like, we don't know what the rules are in the Pixies. It's only when someone goes outside the rules, it's like, oh, that's not very Pixie, actually. You know what I mean? But she has a good sense of what that is, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
What was it like having her bring her energy to the Surfer Rosa tour? Was that surreal at all?
Not really. We thought it would be. I thought it was going to be like, what are we going to do when we sing Gigantic? You know what I mean? Like, you start to make a big deal out of that, and then you go actually do it, and you realize, oh yeah, 90% of the audience doesn't really give a toss. They just want to hear the damn song. They get it that the original singer of that song isn't in the room. Everyone's gotten over it, basically. You know, either they accept that paradigm or they don't, but it's not that big of a deal.
And did you learn anything from kind of being in the headspace of playing that record in full that you took onto this record?
I would say the answer is kind of no, because whatever it is, it's in us that we bring to the table. We did have that history. Yes, we appreciate it. All of that was by accident, and having that from that moment on till we broke up, we already had this thing in us, this mandala, this fingerprint, and that kept it going. And we will never escape that. We just can't. We can't, even if we try to be a different genre, there's probably going to be a little string in there. It goes like, that still sounds like the Pixies. We can't escape it. It's the personality, more or less, that hopefully gets recorded.
And a lot was said about kind of the influence of those records and, you know, how they shaped certain bands, and they often say it a lot. That strain of Pixies that you were talking about there, how often do you kind of sense that in other bands?
I don't ever hear it when, like, you know, like when one of our kids or something says, like, hey, Dad, this band, they're totally like, sound just like you. It's kind of like, oh, okay, I guess so.
There was that one festival in Atlanta where a band, it sounded like Where's My Mind? It was like, fuck, we should open up for that as soon as they're done, you know? But yeah, of course.
That's perfectly describes the kind of moment that we would encounter that. It's just like, we're like having our coffee before the show or whatever, and we hear some other band on some stage in a field going, oh, wow, they're totally like copying our song or whatever, you know what I mean? And then, so anyway, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know, we have kind of like bigger fish to fry than to kind of scan the landscape for like anything that might be trying to like surf our wave or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, I don't know.
And well, how invested are you guys in modern rock music?
Well, I mean, we're here making modern rock music.
Yeah. I mean, did you listen to many kind of younger contemporary bands?
I do not. Last night I happened to just watch the Tiny Desk sessions, you know, on NPR. I saw one band that was pretty interesting. Their persona, and I guess they're a modern band.
Is that the new Idols one that went up this week?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Idols.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like them.
And so, what do you guys listen to? Do you still have the same touchstones? Do you listen to rock at all anymore? Or, because a lot of bands say they're unable to listen to anything else when they're making a record. But what do you guys listen to on the tour bus? What do you guys listen to on the road when you're at home, etc.?
On the tour bus, like, is very quiet on the Pixies tour. There's like no music, no television. There's like, it's just like this room right here.
You can hear that.
But I suppose we listen more in our backstage, in our dressing room maybe, you know, or in the hotel room. You know, we listen to plenty of rock music, I suppose. Mostly older rock music. Sometimes, I don't know, Joey listens to a lot of like African rock music from like the 70s, right?
Yeah, the Zam rock thing. You know. I do like that.
I listen to a lot of 60s rock, you know, 50s rock.
So obviously you guys have had a really successful reunion and comeback. 3 awesome records on the trot that feel vital, relevant, and refreshing. But I was just wondering if there were any kind of your former peers from sort of late 80s and early 90s who aren't with us anymore, but you feel that would benefit from a reunion and have kind of unfinished business. For instance, there's been talk of a whole reunion. Do you guys feel as if there are any other bands that should come back and kind of follow a similar path to what you've done?
Rage Against the Machine would be a good one for me. See, I would consider that modern music, you know, but I happen to like them, and I wouldn't mind seeing them perform again. I have seen them perform, and it felt dangerous. It really did feel dangerous. It was like the first, saw Public Enemy on that big, Dangerous tour, their first tour in Boston. That there was an element of danger in there, a lot, and I like that. I like it when it feels like that, it feels like rock and roll, And yeah, they would be good for the times right now. And they did try it with something, right?
Prophets of Rage.
Prophets of Rage, yeah. Yeah, that's one band.
Any similar feelings?
Mine would be, my suggestion is probably a little like less sort of, it's a little slightly more obscure, so I don't know, like it wouldn't be like a big showbiz wow, probably, I don't know, but Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers, because he tends to not play those songs from that part of his catalog, and he tends to play much quieter and more sort of, more of a folk treatment, I guess. And the Modern Lovers recordings are kind of like a little more, they're kind of punky, they're kind of Velvet Underground-y, they're definitely like louder than all the stuff he did after that, just as Jonathan Richman. And, they're great songs. And I think a lot of people know them, even if they don't know who Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers, they kind of know a lot of those songs because they're just sort of cult favorites enough that you kind of hear them in a lot of different contexts on a radio or at a party or wherever, so that would be good.
And you guys have been amazingly prolific since you came back, since 2013. Do you feel like you're in a kind of motion now where it will be like a kind of one album every 3 years kind of affair, or?
I suppose it depends on what the people that distribute music, it's really kind of up to them, you know what I mean? Well, it's not really up to them, but it's kind of like we don't really want to start our own like record label or something, you know what I mean? So to a certain degree, we have to play ball with the distributors of music, you know what I mean? And it's sort of like if, I personally would rather, I'd release a record every year if I could, you know what I mean? But it seems like the current market doesn't really want to absorb that much.
And are you guys making that much music that you could release an album every year?
No, it's not like we only make music like when someone says, would you go make some music? And the deadline is, and then we go, oh, okay. And then that's kind of how we work.
There's a cycle, right, in live music where you hit all the countries, maybe hit them again, and then after a while, people need to miss us. So we hide and then we do a record. That's the way we've been feeling it, Like, all right, we've done those we've done that part of the globe, this. Oh, we ran out of places now. And then it just feels like that. We don't go like it's time. We just go, oh shit, we're gonna have a lot, lately there's gonna be time. Now there's a block that we could say we're going to record a record. But we don't know when we are going to record a record. It could be tomorrow, but probably not, because this we got to have people pay attention to this record.
Not that much has changed in show business, but the point of transaction between the artist and the patron has kind of shifted away from your record in record shops and that kind of thing, right? And it's kind of shifted over. Of course, there's streaming and stuff now. I realize that, but that's just like it's like encyclopedic, right? It's just like this. So it's kind of shifted over to personal appearances, right? So it's the live circuit, So that's kind of where it's shifted. So we don't really have a problem with that so much because it's like it still means we're a band. It's kind of like they're both kind of equally important aspects of being in a band, You go to the studio, you make some recordings. You go to the nightclub, you play a show. There's not really too much else to do.
And of the upcoming tour, you guys, your fans are so invested in so much in your back catalogue in different ways. How are you going to be tailoring the set list for this tour to kind of set it apart from previous
We don't really
tours?
tailor so much because we don't do set lists, but what happens is we learn about 50 songs, and then we have to play like about 30 of them in a show, usually. And it kind of groups, they start to kind of like as the tour goes on, they start to kind of group. So there ends up being like 5 different groups or clusters of songs, that sort of. So if you go to the very end of the tour, you'll almost see like a set list because, it's not super conscious. It's just kind of like we know certain songs sound good together, or we know that we don't have to change guitars a whole bunch of times if we do these 4 songs together. You know what I mean? So it keeps we like to keep the ball rolling. We don't have a lot of big pregnant pauses between songs. You know what I mean? It's hard to relax on stage, you know what I mean? It's not like we're trying to be like the Ramones, but it's a little bit like that sometimes. We're just like, next song, because there is a degree of embarrassment about being on stage in front of people, you know what I mean? And having to go scream or sing or go with your guitar and play a solo, man. We're all gonna look at you and you're gonna play the guitar.
Oh no!
You know? It's just that is our personality, though.
But as far as introducing these new songs, I think it's hard to explain when we do it. But the way I feel when we're gonna do it is either the audience or are they familiar with us? Like when we opened up for Weezer, it was more like, okay, we're gonna take this chance. And sometimes I felt like we were going to do it because we want to challenge ourselves. We want to entertain ourselves. This is the time, when you make new music, you're either, live music, they're the boss. We're going to entertain them. Sometimes we're going to feel like, let's entertain ourselves, and play these songs. Challenge ourselves. And that's probably when it's going to come across in a better way, in a more honest way. They're really, 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 maybe they could feel that, oh my God, they're entertaining themselves. They're having fun. Or they're like, look, they're on the edge of their thing, And we are. The new songs, it keeps us on our toes. And we like that. It wakes us up. Probably do when we're tired, It's like a cup of coffee.
Well, we'll see you guys on the road in September.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Cheers.
Thank you.